Allen, and this is the Chris Allen MMA show. Today I'm being joined by, well, I was going to say one of the best lightweights in the UK. I think he is now proved he is the best lightweight in the UK. He was Cage Warriors Fighter of the Year in 2019. He's the undefeated Mr. Mason Jones. How you doing, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me on. Obviously, it was a pleasure to get an invite on, and really looking forward to it.
I know I was just a bit gutted because I wasn't able to make it to any of the Cardiff events because I'm a bit further away than that. And I've seen my colleague from MMA UK, I forgot his name now, my friend from there. He interviewed the Welsh gentleman. He interviewed you in there as well, and I was a bit jealous, to be fair, man. But it was so great for you to pick up that title, man. I was so happy to see it. You know, another top UK prospect coming through, undefeated, mate. 25 years old as well, man. Like, you must be looking at your career thinking, I've only just bloody started.
Well, I was 25 on Sunday, so that's something that takes something getting used to as well. But yeah, I sometime in November, I would have been training for 18 years. So it's really, do you know what I mean? It's like all the prep work and everything we put in, and it's sort of, we're only just sort of setting out. I always refer to Cage Warriors. I know Graham always referred to it like that as well, as sort of Cage Warriors being your sort of university years, your schooling years where you learn your trade and you perfect it, so that when UFC does come calling, you're more than ready to step onto the big stage. And rather than just be there to participate, you are actually there to sort of decimate and take people apart. And that's what I've always wanted to do. My goal's never been just to get in UFC. It's never been to do this and do that. It's always been to get that belt and obviously fight the best. That's what I've always wanted to do, and challenge myself. So we're really getting close now, and obviously a good couple of, in a normal situation, I think I would have been signed by now. Where obviously with the whole situation going on the moment with COVID-19, obviously everything's been put on the back burner a bit, and no one's really hiring. So UFC's been pushed back a little bit, but I'm happy to defend my belt, get some more experience on my belt, so that when I do go sometime next year, it's easy to step across, and it just makes that journey a little bit sort of more spectacular. That when you do make a statement when you do get your chance in UFC, you make a statement.
Yeah, and what I love, but I've asked quite a lot, you guys, is it must be so nice to know that you're working for an organisation like with someone like Graham Boylan, who's happy for you to move on to better things. He's not going to try and keep you in his organisation because you're the star man. Like, how important do you think that is that he's happy for you to move on and happy to push you towards these bigger things?
So I've done in interviews before where someone's asked sort of the same sort of question, and the answer always comes through that if you're not with Graham Boylan and you're trying to go through other routes to get in UFC through Europe or Bellator, I think you're really going to struggle. So the turnover rate for UFC from Cage Warriors is we're up to 95 fighters. Obviously, it's crazy. It's a crazy number. It's higher than any other promotion I really know of. And when I talked to the guys out in Team Alpha Male, they've always said the same thing. They said, they're like, oh, who you? When I first went there, they was like, oh, who you signed with? And I was like, oh, I'm with Cage Warriors. And they were like, oh yeah, awesome promotion. We all watch it. And like when you look in America, there's LFA. There's loads of smaller organizations, and then there's some of the other bigger ones. And sort of a lot of the ones who sort of get into the size of the big, rather than be a feeder in UFC, they try and sort their own route. And I'm so happy the Cage Warriors didn't do that they're happy to sort of stay in partnership with UFC and pass guys through, because it's sort of, they fit their audience, and they're growing all the time. So obviously it wasn't long ago where between me and Jack, Jack and me, it should be, they moved to the ice arena and managed to sell that out. So they're always expanding. They're always looking for bigger sort of venues and trying to grow as a promotion, but they're not trying to sort of grow too big that they end up toppling because they don't have strong enough roots. They're smart in the way they do it, and they lean on UFC, which is perfect, because as a fighter, to know that they'll obviously we get shown to the audience we do is spectacular. And when we had the BT deal, that was insane, because obviously fighting on BT was massive as a marketing side of things as well as everything else. So I'm hoping that now UFC sort of redone their deal, that eventually Cage Warriors will be brought back onto BT as well, and we can go from there.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool that you can go to UFC Fight Pass, man, and watch your own fights. You know, that must be pretty, like, you think, I'm going to type in, right, UFC Fight Pass, Mason Jones. Oh, shit, it's all my fights. You know, it's like, you must think, like, you're already on the UFC radar already, aren't you?
Oh yeah, especially I know I've been there for a while as well because obviously I trained in Team Alpha Male, and the guys over there are so cool, and they're so sort of willing to help everyone else, especially Uriah. So Uriah mentioned me not long ago. Like, obviously I'm managed by Graham Boylan as well, and I've been out there for about, I think it was my second trip out, and Uriah was like, oh yeah, I'm meeting Sean Shelby soon. He was like, I'll make sure I drop your name to him and make sure he gives you a watch, and then not long when I come out again, he was like, oh yeah, I spoke to Sean about you, and he said he'd have a quick look, and I mentioned your name when I spoke to Dana White, and it's like, well, it's just sort of, it's crazy when you sort of hear these things, and you see, and especially when I saw Jack, obviously Jack Shaw made his debut, and the video that was released all just before he fought, which was obviously Dana with his, he had the board with all the fight orders up, but he was saying, he pointed out Jack and said it was something they've been watching for a long time. And if guys like that have been picked up and they're getting noticed, then eventually, obviously, I'm going to be in the same boat. So it is inevitable for me to make it to UFC. It's just, like I said, learning the right way to go about things and cementing my foundations and getting there in a stable way, so that when I'm there, I'm staying there. I'm not going to bounce back out.
Yeah, man, little tiny place Wales, man, and look at the talent that comes out of there from all different sports, from football to boxing to MMA now. You know, it's incredible, man. Like, you see, you're following steps, like, you've got Marshman, you've got Brett Johns. They said Jack Shaw's gone over there now, which he's had a great start as well, man. I think you're showing us all up in. I think you're showing us up in the UK, in England and Scotland at the moment, you Welsh guys.
I don't know. Obviously, you guys still got Michael Bisping. Do you know what I mean? First British guy to win a world title through UFC. So, like, they're the guys you want to follow, and the people like, obviously, McGregor. You've got Bisping. All these guys, they're the ones who have really sort of cemented it, and they're the ones who sort of they've opened the game up. Obviously, McGregor was one of the first ones to really sort of, especially from a Cage Warriors side of things, really start getting the call for British fighters and opening the door. And then with Bisping winning his title the way he did, and then obviously everyone else. And we got Leon Edwards, who's another guy who's underrated in UFC for some reason. But the guy's a monster, and obviously he's next in line, if not top three to sort of on that title shot. And it's just sort of, it's weird the way you see everything go, and sort of these guys like Leon Edwards, like, you could have mentioned his name out to a lot of Americans, they don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But he's right there, and he's right next to go, and it's just weird how sort of certain people in UFC get more sort of following than the others. Like obviously Masvidal, who's massively enjoyable to watch. He sort of wouldn't have had the sort of his career take off the way it did without the sort of the beef he had with Leon Edwards, and they had that little scrap, and that really made his career take off. And then obviously he used it, and look where he is now. Do you know what I mean? The BMF, and he's really sort of used it to his advantage, and that's what you've got to do.
So, well, you're doing, or you're talking in the cage at the moment, mate. Like, it's one fight I actually remember a lot. You might not think it is one of your better fights, but when you fought Casper Familia, and I remember watching that fight, and I was thinking in the first round, I was thinking, honestly, I'm not going to say I was worried for you, but from I was like, shit. I think he hit you with a body kick or something. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then what was great to see. Sorry, carry on. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, oh, that one hurt. But then what I loved about that fight is that we got to see what happens, because we don't see you get hurt very often. You know what I mean? And we saw you take something, and then the way you turned it around. Obviously, you gave him a few more digs to the body yourself with knees, just to show him back. And it just, for me, that really showed that turning point where you went from, oh shit, I've taken a shot, and now I can really come back from adversity if need be. And you finished him in the first round. And I think the UFC is definitely what people need, like yourself, and Dana White loves that sort of fighter as well,
Yeah, 100%. And I think that really shows my my background, because like, I always go back to this a lot, and I always say about my judo days, because for me is the highest level I competed at pre MMA was judo, and like there was times where I fought like really high ranked British guys and European guys, and like I've got thrown and managed to sort of escape from getting finished. Obviously with judo, if you get thrown flush in your back, the fight's over. So I managed to sort of escape with smaller scores.
So
but I've ended up
Ippon, isn't it? When you get thrown your back?
Ippon.
Yeah.
But I've ended up sort of like negating it a little bit, so I pushed it down to sort of more Rosari's Yuko scores, and then ended up with like concussed and big cuts on my head from trying to obviously get buried head first into the mat rather than going back first. And when you have to deal with that, and you have to push through, even though you're concussed, you don't really know where you are, you're winded, and you have to think. These are the things that really helped me, and I've always been quite tough in my style, and I've always been able to endure. So we knew Casper in that fight was going to come out hard. Like I said in the interview before, like we did the face to face, and the guy was the craziest guy I've done a face to face with. Like I looked in his eyes, and I laughed, and as soon as I come back, my coach was like, "Well, what are you laughing about?" And I was like, "That guy is absolute lunatic." I was like, "Tomorrow he's coming straight at me." I was like, "This is going to be over in one round," and they were laughing. They were like, "Well, we know he's going to come out strong." I was like, so we'll work towards it. And then he come out, and he come out in such a frantic pace, and the way he kicked and stuff. And he sort of, his hands, he didn't really damage me too much with his hands. Just that body kick caught me, and I remember my lungs closing up a little bit. And then I shot into level change, and he defended well and kept putting the pressure on. So I remember I spun to his back a little bit, circled out, tried picking him up a little bit, and he kept the pressure on. And then I threw a head kick, and he caught the head kick, and this was the mistake he made, because I think the fight could have gone sort of, it would have been a bit more of a struggle for me if he hadn't done this. And as he caught my kick, he stepped forward with a big right hand, and I literally just went with it, because obviously there was no other way out to me. So I followed it down and took some power out of that big right hand. And instead of just staying standing and sort of trying to pass my guard from standing, or let me stand back up and make me come back to my feet, he followed me in my guard. And obviously he's a karate style guy. Like I'm a BJJ black belt. I was a high level judoka. I did a sort of freestyle grappling before any of those. So I've been grappling for years. As soon as he followed me down, it didn't matter whether I was injured or I was hurt or not. I literally just stayed nice and tight, curled into a ball, kept him sort of so he couldn't base out, hit him with some shots just to make sure he was stable. Had a couple of deep breaths until I sort of regained my composure, which took about 10 seconds. And then pushed my way back to my feet. And obviously that's where I started putting the pressure back on him. And he sort of seemed to have blown his load. And
I was going to say, he was breathing out his arse when he got back up, wasn't he? Yeah.
So as soon as I started putting the pressure back on him, he crumpled. And I think the finish was 4 minutes from the start to finish?
4 minutes and 40 seconds, mate. Yeah, that's. Oh no, sorry, no, it was 4 minutes.
That was
4
the
minutes,
Joe
3
fight.
seconds. That was the wrong one. That was the last fight.
Joe fight was 4:40. Yeah, it's these guys. They're not like they can't keep up with me. Like I can keep these pace, and I can maintain this pace. I can maintain this pace with anyone. Like leading up to this fight, when I was finishing off my boxing sparring, I was doing it with two people. So when I do a 5 minute round, and I do 3 minutes for the one, 2 minutes for the other. So there was a fresh guy in for every boxing round, and then I'd have a minute rest, maybe sometimes less, and then we go again. And it's just so you get used to sort of being tired and dealing with it and having to react to people and put pressure back on people when they're pressuring you. And it's what I've come to excel at. And like I haven't even been tested to the point where I've needed to shift up a gear and really show what I can do. So the better opposition Cage Warriors find me, or the better obviously opposition the UFC give me, the better performance I'm going to put out.
Yeah, I'd love to see you fight like a veteran or something. If you have to stay and defend your title, I'd like to see you fight a veteran or something like that, because we know you don't take the easy fights at all. Like you started your pro career in Cage Warriors because I think you're absolutely mad. But but fair play to you, man. Like you started day one going into Cage Warriors, and obviously you've grown up through that organisation, man. And just want to quickly talk about your last fight. Obviously, it was a 5-round fight. First of all, how do you prepare for that? And also, how did you prepare for the fact that you had to change your opponent within like a week's notice? I think, wasn't it, pretty much?
Well, Joe was my third opponent. Joe was my third, yeah. Going back first, preparation-wise, the difference between sort of a 5-round or a 3-round fight is literally just my cardio. So my running I use in fight camp. So it's not so much for my fitness, because my fitness is sort of different. It's more so for just my weight management and stuff, and sort making sure that you get used to the longer aspects of it. I upped it from normally I was doing like 20 to 30 minutes of cardio to sort of 50 minutes an hour long cardio sessions. I was normally mixing up on the treadmill, and then every time you're doing rounds, you just sort of, instead of doing like when I was doing the 3-round fights, I'd be doing like 5-6 rounds of sparring. I was making sure I was doing 8-10 rounds of sparring all the time. So you just get used to sort of being in there a bit longer and enduring. My nutrition was again sorted perfectly, and I know that was the biggest weight cut I've done so far. Like obviously I've cut down to 155 before. I made weight perfect again against Desme. I made the 155 limit to show that I was ready for a title fight. But this one was the biggest weight cut I did. And I remember on my test scales before I weighed in, I was 154.9 by the time I weighed on my test scales before we went down. So I always make sure I'm making perfect weight, and that I'm perfectly there. So when I do recover, I'm maximizing how much I can recover and how efficient I am. The other side of the question, sorry, I can't remember what the other part of it was.
I said, yes. How do you prepare for someone coming in just a week's notice?
That's the one. McGregor said it best, to be honest. What he said in one of his interviews or in multiple interviews sort of stuck with me a lot, that your opponent should be faceless. You shouldn't really worry about who you're fighting. And I don't like. I've never said no to a single opponent with Cage Warriors. Obviously, you're gonna have to take that my word because I can't really prove it. But like, I've signed numerous contracts against people who haven't really been interested in fighting me back. But I've always accepted everyone they've sent me, and they sent me, obviously, Danilo was the fight I was building for. He's the Italian ex-Bellator, ex-UFC, so it would have been a perfect stepping stone for me. And then with the COVID-19 stuff, he pulled on medical grounds before borders got closed. So they found me a new opponent in Crazy Legs. I can't remember the guy's full name. He was meant to fight Martin Stapleton, and he had to pull with an eye infection about 2 weeks before, a week before. So he was fit, he was down to weight, he was ready to go, and he sort of he got pulled on a conjunctivitis. It was 2 weeks before it was conjunctivitis. So they said, look, his eye infection should clear. It should only be a few days of antibiotics. He'll be ready to go. And then a week out from the fight, they rang me to say his conjunctivitis had got worse. He hadn't been reacting to the antibiotics well. So he was out. So the only person left for me to fight was Joe, because Joe's opponent had pulled due to obviously borders going locked down. And then they said, look, we'll swing the title on the line. So by the time I put my coaches, I think I agreed in like 4 minutes. It was I think I called him back in like 4 minutes to agree. But Joe was I'd already done breakdowns on Joe before, but it was weird because I'd done all this camp in preparation for sort of Danilo, who was decent. He had decent boxing, but he was decent wrestling, decent ground game. Obviously, he trained in Team Alpha Male as well. So I knew sort of what to expect. I've been training for him heavily. Then I had to switch around and train against a high-level Taekwondo opponent. Luckily, with my girlfriend and my Taekwondo coach. My girlfriend's obviously a Commonwealth Games bronze medalist, as well as medaling in. She won an Olympic qualifier leading up when she was in Team GB with Taekwondo. So she competed at a really high level for years before she come home she had a falling out with Team GB and left. So with the two of them, they really helped with certain things. And I think that was the most dangerous opponent I got given, really, was Crazy Legs, because obviously I'm not a type of person just to shoot in straight away and take someone down anyway. But the guy had really good submission skills. Like, he hit 2 heel hooks in his fight record. Yep. And his kicking was very dangerous. And my two, Madsen and Carl, my girlfriend and my kicking coach, they both looked at it and was like, look, you need to be tight moving in, because he's going to kick you. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, he's going to kick you or something. So it was good working on that problem solving. And then obviously to come against Joe in the end, who Joe's style fits me like a glove, to be honest. Like, he's an open tie striker who takes too many shots and likes to sort of exchange. I hit harder. I'm really difficult to hit, because even though I seem to take a lot of shots in my fights, every shot is either has something in the way of it or I'm moving away from the shot. So that, like, it's rare I take big shots in fights. I think Alexei was probably the worst example of this, because I got really gun-ho, and instead of cutting him off, I really chased him. And I had some stupid shots where I threw kicks at the wrong times and sort of thing. But apart from that, it was just even in that fight where it was quite a 50-50 exchange all the way through. The shots he was throwing back was catching gloves, or he was catching me while I was taking the power out of them. So against Joe, I was more than ready to sort of go in there and sort of take him apart. And I had a good game plan to work his legs, slow him down, really make him start putting weight on those legs, and then make him shell up. Because I seen in his fights previously, one of the good examples of this is the Jai fight and the Ben Lakdar fight. Mm-hmm. Ben Lakdar sort of showed it a bit more, where if you put pressure on him and you force him to shell, he puts his head down and elbows come in, but he leaves a gap underneath. So I knew he was open to uppercuts and knees, and I knew that the way I knee people, that if I could put pressure on him and get his head down, then I could put him away. And I showed I could do it.
Yeah, definitely showed that, man. Love seeing the reaction when you finished him off, you won the title, man. It was just lovely to see, and now a fantastic prospect coming out of Wales, man. You guys are just taking over. I keep telling you this. Anyway, man. But hey, it's good to see, man. I love it, man. I absolutely love it, man. I'm fed up with the Americans winning everything. You know what I mean? But if let's say that you do have one more title defense at Cage Warriors, okay? Would you like to see if we can get that Danilo fight set up again for the first defense?
Yeah, the Danilo fight would be cool. To be honest, I'm just sort of any UFC veteran would do. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, Danilo had his sort of chance, and like he pulled before the borders got closed, and I know that it was a struggle for everyone with obviously the COVID-19 stuff. But like if I'd been in that situation, I would have made sure that I was out of the country as soon as things started getting in trouble, so that you get done. And I know that sounds like, oh, you can't really say that, but like we had situations here where like we had harsh weather, and we had like a snowstorm coming in. So I made sure I was in Cardiff for 2 days before weigh-ins to make sure that if anything come up, I made sure I was there to make weight. And that's my attitude on things. It's like if I was fighting in America, I'd make sure I was there for a week or two before to make sure, one, you're acclimatized, and two, that there's no problems. One of the biggest examples, and a big shout out to this for the guy for doing it, was who's the French guy, featherweight, just coming through. I always get his name wrong, but he's very famous in France.
Wait, Cage Warriors?
Yeah, Cage Warriors.
Samir Fadine, is that his name?
No, not Fadim. Fadim's a flyweight. It's
oh my
God. There's a French guy who was pushing through. He fought Dean Truman, and he's meant to fight Morgan Charret.
Okay, yeah, Morgan
Charret. So Morgan Charret knew all these problems are coming through. So he made sure that he was in London like 5 days before weigh-ins to make sure that he could get there. And like, do you know what I mean? That's what you have to be doing. Like in the end, the guy still didn't end up fighting because his opponent didn't make it in time, and it is very irritating. And like, you can't be in the sport in Cage Warriors with the idea of making money. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I've definitely not made money in Cage Warriors. Like, on top of everything, I've spent savings. Pretty sure I spent quite a lot of my savings, stuff I had left me and stuff I had earned through the years. I've spent and pumped into the sport because it's an investment into my time, into my skills. Like, UFC is the end goal. Like I said, this is university years. You don't go to university with the idea of making money. Like, all you're going to do is be pumping money out, paying for everything. You pay for your tuition, you pay for your living fees. Like, you don't make money in uni. If you are making money in uni, you're doing something right. But
this is a milestone, like you could say.
It's a milestone. Like these, like this is the training wheels stage, and you need to be really sort of making sure you get used to doing everything right. Like, the amount of times I've cut weight in hotel rooms is perfect, and even like when I fought in Cardiff, where I've had opportunities to cut weight from home, we've ended up going and cutting weight. Like the time with the snowstorm, we cut weight from Cardiff, because when you need to fight in UFC, like 90% of the time, or probably 100% of the time, you're going to be cutting weight in a hotel room. So if you've never done it before, it's going to be a problem. And running into these sort of these problems early make things so much easier. So like when I fought Desme ended up getting refused to travel out, so we ended up having to catch another flight, and then we wasn't sure whether he was going to turn up or not. We didn't know whether it was going to work out, and then he got there, he made weight, and for us it was just no problem. We just stayed tough and said, look, as long as he makes weight, this fight's going to go ahead. It doesn't matter whether he's late or not. As long as he makes weight, it's cool. And we turned up, did the work, and obviously I got the job done. So for me, it's just problem solving, and it's all about just making sure that I'm the best I can be, and making sure that I'm professional in everything I do, so that no one can ever blame anything on me. And I'll always make sure I make weight, and I'll always make sure that no matter the circumstance, I'm there and I make weight. And obviously these are unavoidable. Like, one day I may may get refused into a country for some stupid reason, which has happened before, and I know it's happened to people. And obviously, I fly to America a lot to train, and the amount of times I've gone out there, and I remember the last time I went out there, I got stopped by border control, and they were trying flagging me up for some reason. I was like, look, he was asking me what I was doing and all those things, and I was like, I'm coming out here to train MMA, and he was like, well, where'd you earn your money from? And I had to go through everything and get my records out and go through everything with them, and it was a nightmare. But like, these things are going to come up, and they're just problems you just get used to dealing with. And the earlier you meet these problems, and the less problems you're going to have in the future. And obviously, the better you handle your shit, the better UFC is going to take you.
It's just amazing, and I completely agree with you, mate. And it's amazing just listening to how you're speaking. You know, you've only been in your pro career for 2.5 years, you know, maybe slightly more. And you know, you've had 9 fights. You fought the top guys. You're the Cage Warriors champion. You're a Cage Warrior Fighter of the Year 2019. You trained at Alpha Male. You're a black belt in all different disciplines. So what I want to know is, where did it all start? Then I want to see the timeline here. So what initially got you into doing any sort of martial art?
So when I was young, like obviously around by us, I'm from a small Welsh town. Like, a population of the town I'm in is like, I think we're up to about 5,000 now. So it's a very small town. Like, this is that, like, we've only hit that not long ago. Like, I think when I was younger, there's about 3,000 people in town. So we're from a small place, and like, coming through, my older brother, they always played football and rugby, and that was sort of where everyone did. And I started playing football, and my dad always said I had 2 left feet, and I was terrible. I was too busy just trying to be violent. And then I tried at rugby, and I was good at tackling, but everything else, like sort of passing and any skill-related activity to do at rugby, I was terrible at. I couldn't kick the ball anywhere. I couldn't throw it properly. I could just tackle people and smash into people and take a battering. So my dad used to do a little bit with me when on sort of pads and stuff. My dad's always been interested in fighting and different things, so he always used to do a little bit, but my dad didn't really know what I was doing. And he always said, like, from when I was a kid, I always had a sort of aggression problems where I couldn't sort of handle situations, so I was always angry all the way through since before I could speak. And 2, he said, he was either swords, guns, or I'd be running around trying to fight people. Again, when I was a kid, I was always dressed as Action Man or Superman, or trying to smash people up. So fighting was just sort of a perfect fit for me when I fell into martial arts. And he took me to a local grappling hall, and they messed around with different things, and like, MMA wasn't really around then, so it was just sort of where everyone could sort of try and do. And I did a little bit with them, but it was more so like, I was 6 at the time, 6.5. So there was coming up to 7, so there was no classes for us. I was too young. So he said, look, bring him back in a couple of years, and as soon as he's old enough, we'll start doing a bit with him. And I didn't want to wait, so my dad found a kickboxing gym, Falcons Martial Arts. So he took me to that when I was just after my 7th birthday, and I started training then. And obviously, Joe Duffy, who fights in UFC, he came out to that gym. Richard Shaw, he came out of that gym. Multiple others, and it was literally just because they were the only people doing things at the time. Obviously, Shaky was one of the first to split off and sort his own thing. Richard Shaw was, but like, I grew up training with people like Jack Marshman, Jack Shaw. Like, they were always in the gyms, and I trained with Duffy for years. So like, it was always sort of MMA aspected, even if it wasn't called MMA at the time. So like, we used to do self-defense classes and traditional jiu-jitsu classes, which was basically a gi, gloves, and shin guards, and it was literally just you'd literally like mix it up, then you'd throw each other, and then you'd do jiu-jitsu on the floor. Like, it was just early MMA. And I always sort of had the plan from the time I was probably about 9 or 10 of going into MMA. It was always one of my goals. It ended up being my main goal in the end. The other side, like, when I was a kid, it was always either fight him or I want to be in the military. And I'm colorblind, so the military sort of fell away, and I was always in love with fighting more than anything else. So it ended up everything sort of coming together and working out for me. And so it ended up being sort of kickboxing, like freestyle grappling, when I was about 7. Judo from a time I was about 10. BJJ from a time I was about 14. God, I'll have to get these in order now. Thai boxing from the time I was 17, Thai boxing from 18. And it's just gone from there, really. So I ended up getting a black belt in kickboxing when I was young. Then getting a brown belt in combat jiu-jitsu,
Nice.
traditional jiu-jitsu. Then black belt in judo, which was something I didn't really want. I graded up the brown, and I was happy going to competitions with the brown belt at my waist, fighting all these black belts and sort of sort of getting medals and stuff, and for the Commonwealth Games, because I was shortlisted for Commonwealth Games in Scotland. So I ended up going for selections for that, and ended up having to grade up to make sure I made selection process. And then I got my black belt in BJJ not long ago at all, just before Christmas, I think. So
nice.
It's been a crazy couple of years, but it's like, even when I was about 10, like, I was training 5 days a week, multiple times a night. Like, there was a couple of us. There was me, Ethan Gate, Christian, Adam. Like, they're all guys that not so much. None of them really do it anymore. I know a couple of them do rugby and stuff, and one of them just got like a master's in maths and something else. And like, all these guys, like, we train together, and then I remember Adam's Grant used to take us from class to class, and like,
nice.
He would make sure that we were there and sort of helped out, so that I was training like twice a night. So it was good, and it was something like I loved doing, and it's never something I've ever looked at and thought, oh, I wish I'd done something different, or I wish I could have sort of gone out and party a bit more, because it was never sort of my scene. Like, don't get me wrong, I love going out, and I've got a really good group of friends who I've been close with since I was in school. But I've never been a big drinker. Like, I stopped drinking, completely give up on it about 3 years ago. So I've been teetotal since then. But before then, I'd only ever, like, I'd have like a year where I didn't drink, and then I'd have like a splash out on my birthday or like a special occasion, get pissed, and then wake up the next morning thinking, well, I don't know why I done that. It ain't even as much fun as staying sober. So I've never been into that. Never really done the old recreational drugs thing that everyone seems to do at the minute. That was never my scene. I never touched any of that. So it's just always been fighting for me. So this has always been a life goal for me. And like, me and Jack Shaw have talked a lot about how sort of it's all about how much you put in, and just sort of, me and him always got on well because the two of us had the same mindset, which was put your head down and just train. Like, even now, I haven't been posting as much as I should do on Instagram, because with everything going on, like, I'm training in gyms on my own and certain things, and they prefer me not advertising that they're letting me train there on my own. So I haven't been at posting so much, but I'm still training 3 times a day, twice a day, and making sure I'm getting everything in. And sort of this morning, I went and boxed. Let myself. I got keys to the boxing gym, so I let myself in, did some bags, did some footwork and some movement and some kicking, and then I'll lift tonight now and then go for a run. So it's making sure you get everything in.
So you seem to have had definitely the right mindset growing up. I'm actually a bit ashamed of my lifestyle now growing up. I'm 33. I got a bit of time when I played rugby most of my life, to be fair, and we still can't beat the Welsh in the Six Nations, but we won't talk about that. You know what I mean? Okay, but no, mate. And it's actually, I'm the same as you. I got pissed about 5 years ago and thought, why do I drink? So I never touched it again. I thought, this is shit. And now I go out sober, and it's actually a better night out, to be fair. Like you were saying, you know? It's better. It's just nice to hear from. I don't want to call you a kid, 'cause you're only a bit younger, but you're 25. But it's nice to hear that, because I've got friends who've come from Wales. Don't take it the wrong way, okay? They've gone the different route, okay, and stuff like that, because it's very easy to go. They're from the valleys and those sort of areas. They're very they get off their heads all the time, whatever, right? Okay, but it's nice to hear from yourself that at that sort of younger age, you actually focused on, you wanting to do sport and train. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I was playing a lot of rugby, I was at quite a high level. I turned 16, found girls, found alcohol. Do you know what I mean? And that was the end of it, And now, mate, I'm very envious of yourself, mate. But that's what it takes. And look what you've done. You've been a pro fighter for 2.5 years. You've had 9 fights. You even fought 6 times in a 12-month period as well at one point, which is absolutely incredible against top opposition. So I'm not just trying to lick your ass, mate, but no, fair play to you. Do you know what I mean? You're definitely doing the right things.
Thank you very much. And like we said, like, I've got friends who I grew up with in school, and the boys who were my brother's age and stuff. And I remember, like, a couple of them. And one of the boys I know, he's a very nice boy. And when he was coming through school, like, people would ask him what he wanted to do with his life, sort of thing, as he coming through school. And his answer was always the same. He said, I want to get a decent job. He said, nothing spectacular. he said, I want to play for the local darts team and I want to get pissed up my head every weekend. And that's all he'd ever wanted to do. And that's not a joke. That's generally what he wanted to do. And I was always sort of different than that. Like my aspirations, my dreams were always higher. Like I wanted to be the best in the world. And I used to get sort of more laughed at in school than he did for sort of having aspirations just joining the darts team. So yeah, people don't really understand, and there is a sort of closed-minded mentality in Wales, and sort of where I am, I'm right on top of the valley, so we always grew up with everyone, and everyone sort of, even sort of things like, I've got friends who have traveled to Australia and traveled like South America and stuff, and even people who said they want to spend a year or 2 years traveling and sort of working out in Oz. Like I remember a couple of friends of mine I've always stayed in touch with who managed to do it, and we spoke to, and they were ridiculed for wanting to go away and travel. And like it is quite a closed-minded place sometimes. Like I love my country and I love my town and stuff, but it does irritate me that people sort of, like the biggest aspirations a lot of people and people I went to school with mainly, aspirations they had was just sort of they are to have a family and settle down, and each their own. Like my mother, she's a lovely woman, and she's the best mother I've ever, obviously she's the best mother I could ever ask for. She's insane supporting everything she's done, and she's always said when she was younger, all she ever wanted to do was to be a mother. That was what she wanted to do, and fair play to her for sort of chasing it and making sure that was what she did. And she's been a full-time mother for years, and my dad's always supported us, and like she worked her ass off to be able to just sort of look after us full time, and that was what she wanted to do. But it just sort of seemed that people just wanted to sort of to stay inside their bubbles and do what they want to do, where I was always happy to go out. Like at 17 or 18, I went to Brazil for 3 months. Stayed out there for three and a half months. I think it was 18 just before I turned 18, and sort of didn't tell my parents. I knew they wouldn't allow me to go, so I just sort of booked the flights, sorted it out, and said, look, I'm going, and went out and stayed out there, and they had no clue. I didn't give them any time to look into it or not. I just sort of went, and afterwards, when they sort of realised how rough Brazil was and the shit that was going on when I was out there, they was like, look, we never would let you go. But that was always me. I just wanted to I've always wanted to see the world, and I've always wanted to sort of chase.
Go on your own.
Yeah, I went on my own. Yeah.
Chasing things. Because everything's 21 and over there, isn't it?
Brazil? No. Not Brazil. Brazil was just Brazil's mad, absolutely insane. I was out there for Carnival as well, so it was, do you know what I mean, biggest festival in the world. Training wise and stuff out there, it was insane. Obviously, I got trained a lot of jiu-jitsu. I did a lot of Thai boxing out there, and I was training Thai boxing in at the bottom of one of the favelas. So I used to cycle to the bottom of the favela to train, and because I've got blonde hair. I know you can't see it very much on there, but in the sun, if I tan, my hair goes bleach blonde, and because obviously I'm pale, like the darkest I go. This is probably the darkest I go. So I scream gringo, and I used to ride my bike to the favelas. I was really small, and there'd be Brazilians in cars who would literally run me off the road just because I was a foreigner. So I got knocked off my bike 3 times by cars. I had my bike run over twice just because I was a gringo. And going to these favelas to train, and ended up having like blood fights with people out there and all sorts. But most people were really welcoming, and it was a crazy place, and sort of it's something I'm never going to forget. And on top of that, I've gone to Vegas to do training camps. Obviously, I've gone to Team Alpha Male 5 times. Trained out there. I've trained at one of the ATT sort of. I didn't train at the ATT gym. I trained at one of their sort of feeder gyms. I was only 16 at the time. It was before my 70th birthday when I was out on a family holiday, and all the rest of my family sort of wanted to go and like try different things, and I was like, I just want to go train. So they dropped me to the gym for a few days of full day training. I think I did 3 full days of training out there, and sort of that was a brilliant experience. I've trained in Boston with the judo team out there, so it was Kayla Harrison, Travis Stevens, Jimmy Pedro. Obviously, you wouldn't really know those names. Kayla Harrison, you may know because she's in PFL. She's the PFL champion in MMA now. But Ronda Rousey, you know that name?
Yeah. I think so. I've heard of it somewhere before. Yeah.
It's her old judo gym. Like, it's one of the best judo gyms in America. So I went out there and did a training camp, and sort of, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Ronda at the time because she was just coming through MMA. Like, she hadn't made it in UFC yet. The whole thing where there was no women in UFC hadn't even happened yet. So, it was just around that time. So like I've trained with the best of the best, and I've done sort of much as I can. And like with judo, I've done like world training camps before, and trained with like Olympic medalists, and I've shared the mat with world champions and Iliadis I trained with, and all these different guys. And like I've been battered more times than obviously I can even remember. And I've really sort of grown as a fighter. And I haven't ever had an opportunity to show exactly how good I am yet. And I think obviously when I do get to UFC and I finally start fighting guys who will give me a challenge, then you're really going to see what I can do.
Yeah, you beat me to it there. I was going to say, I'm sure we haven't seen everything from you yet. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. I said, you're still really young, mate. You've had all this experience at such a young age. It's actually unbelievable. I can't think of any other fighter who's been through all this by 25, it's including being made Fighter of the Year and being the title holder. And mate, it's just incredible that all this you've done all this in 2.5 years. And obviously, I appreciate before you were doing all the training as well and other things. And mate, smashed it, man. There's no reason why you shouldn't go and win a title. So if you don't win a title in UFC now, mate, you've only got yourself to blame. Nah, mate,
100%. No, 100%. And it's all in my hands, and it's all about how hard I train. And like you see these people, and people always blame other people, and they'll say like, oh, I never really made it in UFC because of so and so stuff happening at the time, and they were really picking fighters up and stuff, and I never had it. And in certain respects, I can understand, but you've got to shake the tree before hard enough before something falls out. And if you get tired halfway, then that's only for you to blame. Like it's all about how much effort you put in. And my dad's always said that he's always drilled into me that we'll only get stuff that we put the effort in to achieve. And if you're not willing to do the extra, then someone else will. That's the thing I've learned more than anything. Like I've competed against Russians, I've competed against Brazilians, I've competed against Africans and Kazakhstan fighters and Ukrainians, and all these guys, you'll see them, and a lot of them they don't have money for food. Like a lot of them do sport because the sport pays money for them to have food. Like these are hungry guys. Like they're not figuratively hungry. They're physically hungry guys. Like everything they want, they have to take. And it comes from Britain, which is obviously everything's handed to us, and we're given free schooling, and you're allowed, you can decide what you want to do. Like we're given it easy, and like these people, they don't understand the grind. So it's harder as a fighter coming through Britain to make it because you have to push yourself harder. Yeah. Like Americans, they have the wrestling programs in college. Like they are allowed to wrestle to whatever level they want to do. In the UK, I took up judo just because there was no equivalent to wrestling. Like if I wanted to do something on the level and I wanted to take it and I wanted to get as good as the wrestlers, I needed to do judo because judo was the sort of path that would allow me to do it, and it was the highest sort of level of competition that I could do. So that's what I did. It's all about how much we're willing to sacrifice and all about how much pain we're willing to endure to get to it. And then the bigger the sort of adversary that I get, then the better me you're going to see, and the stronger fighter that's going to come through at the end. And that's sort of why I've always been driven to do it. And obviously you can understand how passionate I am to get to that point and how much I'm willing to sacrifice. Like there's nothing in my life I'm not willing to give up to make it.
I think that the main thing as well, like you said quite a bit of time, is that you built your foundations properly before going into the UFC. So you didn't just do half of it and think, right, I'm going to jump in now. You've got to that level now where you've got all these different belts, you've got all this different experience around the world, and things like that. Now is the time. It's not too early. It's not too late. It's just right, I think, and I think that's what's going to be your biggest advantage, because let's be honest, the lightweight division is probably one of the toughest divisions in the whole. In the whole roster, like even you've got people like Edson Barboza ranked 11. That just shows you how
blows your mind.
So, but again, I'm looking at the list now, and I'm thinking you could. I'm not saying I'm not going to go and put these guys down and say destroy them, but you've got. I reckon you'd easily fit in with some of these people. Yeah. Looking at the way you've been fighting, and is there anyone? I'm not asking you to call anyone out, but is there anyone you'd like to fight in like the top 15?
Justin Gaethje.
Okay, fine. He said it already.
Justin Gaethje. Yeah. Habib's always up there. I'd love to fight him, but a fight against Habib, no one ever sits there and think, oh, that's going to be an exciting fight. I'd love to have an exciting fight against Habib because that is horrendous. That is literally like getting smothered by a spider. Like there's arms and legs coming at you from different directions. The guy doesn't get tired, and he's underrated striking. So he is a monster in the most terrifying aspect because he's not straightforward. And it doesn't matter whether you know what's coming, he's still going to do it. Jack Shaw's the Welsh version of Habib, because you'll see he done the same thing in every single one of his fights with Cage Warriors. And no matter what people did, none of them could stop it. So that's the sort of, they're the hardest fighters to deal with because they're the sort of, their styles that are horrendous to deal with. But Justin Gaethje, I'd love to fight. Khabib, I'd love to fight. Ferguson, I'd love to fight. And Poirier, they're my sort of top picks. Poirier and Gaethje would be up there. Gaethje's an insane level wrestler who's got sort of a crazy background in different things. And he goes out there and you're either going to knock him out or he's going to knock you out. So that's someone I'd love to exchange with. And I'd love to see I'd love to see how I could beat Poirier again. I watched Poirier when he fought McGregor, and then I watched him when he fought Duffy, and how fast that guy sort of improved is insane. And I think losing to McGregor was the best thing that happened to him.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. He's doing amazing things now. Like, he's ranked number 2 and everything now. So anyway, just one thing I want to ask you before I let you go, mate. I won't keep you very longer. Give us a prediction then for Ferguson and Gaethje if it does happen next month.
Right. So I've heard both sides of this, where obviously Gaethje can knock him out, but I think Ferguson's just going to bleed him. I think Ferguson will hit him with some mad stuff. It'll be an absolute tear up. But I think Ferguson will manage to cut him a little bit and sort of put him out. But I can see Gaethje winning. I can see Gaethje knocking him out. But it's weird because obviously Ferguson he struggles with certain wrestling aspects of things. So like, I've never really seen him as being able to beat Khabib. And I can see Gaethje beating him, but I don't want to see Gaethje win just because I want to see the Ferguson Khabib fight happen, and I'd like to see how that happens. And obviously, if Gaethje wins, it throws the division up in hands again. So. And I think the thing with the lightweight division it really struggles with is because the rankings don't really make sense in certain aspects of it. And I know that happens in a lot of divisions, but because everyone's so close to being ready for a title, like there's like the top 10, if any of the top 10 took a title fight, then you could see it being close.
People forget you got people like Dan Hooker just knocking on the door, behind these things, not as well named, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira. There's so many. That division is so stacked. You've definitely picked the right division to test your skills. That's what I can say.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll get there. That's the thing. Like I've trained myself against welterweights in UFC, and I've tested myself against featherweights in UFC, and I'm more than ready to make my way. But again, there's no rush in the world. Like you said, I've only just turned 25. If I don't make my debut till I'm 26, then God heavens, do whoever they put me against.
You've got a long time left, mate. Randy Couture retired at 49 years old. You've got 24 more years, mate. You're all right. Okay, you've got plenty of time.
I won't be in it that long.
I'm sure you'll be passing on all your knowledge and having a whole legacy by then, mate. I'm sure you have multiple belts. We'll have the triple C, proper triple champ. We'll see what happens, mate. But again, I just want to say thank you very much, mate, for giving up some time to come on. And I know that belt's heavy to hold for that amount of time, so I appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me on. And yeah, my arm's gone a little bit dead, but it's all good. So pleasure having me on. And whenever you want to get me on again, drop me a message. I'm always keen.
I appreciate it, mate. I just want to give the opportunity though now. Just give a shout out to any people who helped you get to where you are, gyms, training partners, sponsors, anything like that.
So sponsors first, big shout out to SD Sealants, PP Builders, CCF Scaffolding. Like these are all guys who have supported for a long time. Tatami Fightwear, another one. They're a massive sponsor for me. Obviously, I'm always repping. Tatami Fightwear, Candor Talent, Patent Seekers. Obviously, big shout out to my coaching team. I've got an insane coaching team full of guys who are crazily credited with different things. So they've done well in their own right, and we're just sort of picking up steam now. Big shout out to all my family and friends who always support. I've got a crazy support back home, and it's only getting bigger. And the last thing I'd like to say is obviously drop me a message on social media. Instagram is my main thing, at Mason Jones 95. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. But if anyone wants to get in touch, or any of you got any questions, or would like to ask me anything, or want to take a piss out of me, anything you want to do, drop me a message at Mason Jones 95, and we can meet up and punch the other lights out if you want. I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, they'll be brave to do it. I'm sure you guys are dying to punch something at the moment. So yeah, but let's hope this lockdown gets lifted soon. We get a bit more light on what's happening, because I'm sure UFC are going to want to put a lot of events on to make up for all this. So let's hope you get that call up. If not, I look forward to seeing you back in Cage Warriors and defending your title, mate.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for having me on.
No worries. Appreciate your time, man. Have a great day.